to Spiritual Seekers. I'm so glad to be co-hosting this program and introducing you all to these inspirational women. Women who have worked from the bottom to the top, growing, building, and branding their mark on modest fashion as we know it.
Today's episode features modern-day Esthers. These women interact with society and operate in the public eye, embodying and helping spread the message of modesty that we learn from Esther Hamalka. You see, the word snoot does not only have to be about clothing and literally what we wear, but it's also an attitude. And to tell you more about that, we're taking a step back in time to Mrs. Frankel's segment, Spiritual Sources. Hit it.
Here reporting from Iran. Thanks, Ms. Koningsberg. Hi, I'm here reporting from Iran, or ancient Persia. Today, I'm here to bring you today's segment of Spiritual Sources, bringing you ancient sources that reflect today's topic on our show. You can see our sources that we'll be referencing here in Persia in your own packets that are included on the audience seats. Today, we're here to talk to you about one of the most special Jewish figures who lived in this area, Esther. Esther was a woman who was involved in politics and in the palace, and yet she maintained her Jewish dignity throughout her stay in the palace. Chazal have an interesting take on Esther, as we can see when we read through their tales of her in the Megillah and in the Gemara in Megillah. Surprisingly, Esther is portrayed as not having been the most externally beautiful woman. Chazal discuss the two names of Esther. She's called Esther, and at the same time, she's called Hadassah. Chazal and the Gemara and Megillah want to understand why she has both names. One opinion in the Gemara is that her name was really Esther, but that she was nicknamed Hadassah because, like a myrtle branch, she had a green complexion. Interesting. We always think of her as the most beautiful queen. If so, and she really did have a green complexion, how was it that she managed to capture the heart of King Ahasuerus? Just one page later, the Gemara includes a potential answer. The Gemara records that there are three people in Jewish history who are paradigms of the Midah of Tznius, or Tzniut: Rachel, Shaul, and finally Esther. What is this Midah? We often are used to it colloquially being referred to as dress and modesty, but that does not seem to apply to the full meaning of how these three characters are described. I think that when we look into the words of Tehillim, we can find an answer that will help us better understand Queen Esther. In Tehillim, we see that there's a pasuk that says, Kol kfuda bas melech pnima. The honor and glory of the princess is in pnima, in her internal self. Esther is the paradigm of someone with an internal self, as we know that even her name Esther shows that she was hidden. While she was a public figure in the palace, and definitely a bat melech in her role as Ahasuerus' wife, Esther maintains her internal dignity as a Jewish girl, despite not sharing all of the details of her personality. The Ali Shor picks up on this and discusses that Esther really is the paradigm of Tzniut, mostly because she reflects this beautiful internal dignity. And this perhaps is what spoke to King Ahasuerus. Going back to our initial question, if Esther was green, perhaps it was her internal beauty that shone out, that was so different and spoke to Ahasuerus as being a shining example of a beauty that was everlasting and that was much more profound than all the other princesses and girls that he looked at in his beauty pageant. So to wrap up, when we think about Esther, we think about a woman who was strong, involved, powerful, and yet maintained a sense of internal dignity throughout her life and was able to accomplish so much. The Ali Shor suggests that it was this Midah of Tzniut specifically that made Esther the perfect heroine to redeem the Jewish people in a time when God's presence was internal and hidden itself. This year, when we reflect on Jewish women who are able to be powerful and beautiful at the same time, let's remember the historical example of Esther, a Jewish woman who was powerful, involved, and always maintained her sense of tznius, her internal dignity that shone through and made her beautiful to all. That's it for Spiritual Sources, and now back to you for the remainder of our Spiritual Seekers program.
So central. Let's give a big, warm, central welcome to our two guests of today, Mary of Mary Couture and Mrs. Abrams of Brooklands in Teaneck.
Hi, thank you so much for joining us today. We brought you here today for our wonderful live audience to talk about modesty in our day and age. What we'd like to learn from you is how you have each single-handedly managed to be game changers when it comes to modest fashion. Whether that was in establishing your business or building your label, we want to hear your journey and how your brand encourages modesty not only on the outside, but on the inside as well. Let's start with introducing ourselves. Would you mind sharing with the audience your name, where you're from, and where your company is based?
Hello again, Susan Abrams from Teaneck, New Jersey. The name of my store is called Brooklands. I do see a lot of familiar faces. I think some of you have been there. We focus on modern, orthodox, everyday wear, really basics. And my purpose of starting the business was because I saw a need for it, not only in Teaneck, but really for our entire community, teens and adults. And that's my focus.
Hi, I'm Mary from Mary Couture. I'm actually very honored to be here. It's an amazing school and really beautiful what you girls accomplish. And really, before anything, kudos to these girls who put so much work in calling me and emailing me, and I really appreciate it. Thank you. I'm from Lawrence, New York. My company is in Lawrence. I always wanted to be near my children when they were growing up, so I can come home and be there and everything. So my factory, I'm very lucky, is just a few blocks away from my house, and that's the way I'm a little able to be a mommy and a grandmommy and run my business.
Before we jump to our next question, I just want to give our studio audience a bit of a sneak peek. For those of you who don't already know, Ms. Abrams that's with us, her store, Brooklands, is essentially, for our sake, I guess, would be like the hardtail queen, so to speak. She sells every brand of skirt, every basic that you could ever dream of, and is the go-to from everything that's either weekday, even for Shabbos, and it's all in one place.
And Mary is the founder of Mary Couture, responsible for Simcha dresses, Shabbos, and Yontif dresses, and even recently a brand that has branched out to pop culture, dressing major celebrities such as the Big Bang Theory actress Mayim Bialik, Dancing with the Stars professional dancer Allison Hulker, and another name that you won't believe, but we'll save that one for later. So, back to the questions. What would you each say is your typical or target pool of clients? And what are they usually looking for when they come into your store?
So I find that my demographic is teens and adults. We really do focus, like you mentioned, about hardtail. We also have our own label, and it's actually not what I'm wearing today, but it's actually what I see on most of the young ladies here today. It's your comfortable cottons, certainly tznius length, but comfortable so that you can be anywhere. You can either be at a business meeting, you could be at school, you could be shopping, anything that you're comfortable doing. And a budget in mind, something that's going to wash well, last you a long time, that you're going to enjoy when you go to your closet, that you're going to pull it out and you're going to be happy wearing it any day of the week.
So my clients are really somebody, usually starts off when the girls are starting to post-seminary, or if they have a special occasion, simcha. It's when the mommy says, okay, it's time for that special dress. And you see them come into my store and they have this excitement in their eyes and they're getting their real first party dress. It usually starts that way. I actually have some clients who have been dressing since their bar mitzvah. They are now dressing, I hate to say my age, but they're now dressing their kids, and they've sent me photo albums from when they were bas mitzvahed till now, my dresses all the years. It's a very special thing that I have. And so usually it starts with that special occasion dress, and then Baruch Hashem, they get hooked on a miri, and they come back for their vart dress, for their wedding dress, for their Sheva Bachas clothing, for their mami of bar mitzvah, for their mami of wedding dresses, and then it goes on, Baruch Hashem. And now with my daughter who's here, Simi, has joined our company, and she does a Miri 2.0 line, which is more like dating clothes, Shabbos clothes, separate. And this season, we have just launched a sportswear line.
Just to turn to the audience for a second, make some noise if you've ever shopped or heard of either Brooklyn's or Mary's. There we go. All right. So Mary, if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to direct this question to you first. Did you always know that you wanted to work in the fashion industry? And if yes, then have you had any formal training in the field?
So my grandmother is from Antwerp, Belgium. She should rest in peace. And I spend my summers going to visit her to Antwerp. My grandmother was a very lady who loved fashion. They say I inherited from her. And she had a passion for beautiful clothing. And my grandfather, a Holocaust survivor, loved nothing more than to dress her beautifully. And they used to take weekend trips to Paris to pick out couture clothing. And who was that lucky little granddaughter who accompanied her? Was me. And I fell in love with beautiful fabrics, and the whole world of couture, of satins and beading, I just knew this is what I want to do one day.
And Mrs. Abrams, how about you? How did you get into the fashion scene, and what's the background of your store?
So I myself have three daughters in my family, Kananahara, and there was always the run to the mall or the run to Brooklyn or to the 5 towns for clothing. And Teaneck really didn't have a store at the time. So I just thought, let me give it a try. And really just with a little bit of money, we had a Saturday night, a Motzei Shabbos boutique in our home. My daughter, Brooke, actually, one of my daughter's name is Brooke, and I actually intended to have her take over the store one day. She has since then changed careers and is not interested, but not because she doesn't like fashion. We both had an eye for detail, enjoy fashion, but always keeping a budget in mind and always keeping your daily wardrobe in mind. And so we did this Motzei Shabbos parlor meeting, and it went nicely. We'll jumpstart to 2.5 years later. We were in the house for that long. We ended up starting in the dining room and then taking over the basement, taking over the garage. So it was the dining room, the basement, the garage, and before you knew it, it was also the living room. So after 2.5 years, we ventured out and we then became a storefront. And that actually today, incredibly so, is our 8th-year anniversary. On March 9th, yeah, on March 9th, 2009. So it's really special to be here with all of you talking about it. On March, 2009, March 9th, we opened the store, and we're loving it. And we find that we're getting customers from all over the country, as well as even all over from outside the country, because people hear about us, they see our clothing, and they enjoy coming in.
Mrs. Abrams, just a follow-up question.
Sure.
What keeps you motivated and invested in particularly modest fashion?
So for this season, for example, for spring, we have a whole lot of new skirts coming in and t-shirts. And the whole focus of both of those is the length of the skirts. As you all know, if we go to regular stores or to the mall, the length is an issue. So that's one thing that for sure, there's at least a 22-inch, if not 24-inch minimum length that we always stock. And then regarding the t-shirts, the fabric has to be thick. It can't be see-through. It can't be too thin. Certainly the neck needs to be tznius. The length of the sleeve needs to be tznius. SNEAS. So we keep all that in mind, and yet we have a trend look, a detail that we're trying to obtain so that people of your age group would be interested in wearing the clothing.
Let me just actually pick up on something that you said, because it just went, a bell went off in my head, that you said you have different lengths of skirts. What does that mean?
We do. We have 22, 24, 25, 27. There's a few reasons. One is for SNEAS reasons. One person wants it longer, one wants it shorter. And then height. Someone that's 5'3" will wear one length, and someone that's 5'7" will wear another, yet it might just be right below the knee on both. So we need different lengths.
That's awesome. So actually, another question for you, Mary. What would you say is your motivation to establish yourself in this world of modest fashion? Why is it important to you?
I love when people look beautiful. And I'll tell you a little how I started, and I think that will explain my journey and what my clothing are about. When I graduated high school, we started having weddings. My friends started getting engaged. We were older than you, 18, 19. And there were no clothes at that time that were SNEAS and beautiful. You had to go to Loman's back room and try to find something. And there was
Do you guys even know what Loman's is?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm aging myself. You're right.
Does anyone remember what Filene's is? I'm saying all these places. Okay, I'm just checking, yeah.
So Loman's was a discount store. I'm sorry, you're right. They used to have brand name labels. Mrs. Chop, do you remember Loman's? Somebody, a friend of mine? Loman's was brand name labels, and people who, like me, unfortunately had very, very good taste, always wanted beautiful clothing, and I used to go there and try to get discounts, but there was no extra fabrics, and the skirts were short, and the necklines were open, and it was just so frustrating. So one day I went to a dressmaker, and I decided to make myself some pretty clothing to wear to friends' weddings. And that's how I really started, and that's what motivates me every day, is to just have girls who want to look sneastic and be beautiful, but there's no reason that they shouldn't have fabulous, gorgeous fabrics and fit and everything just like any other, but that suits what we need.
So both of you have experience in creating your own pieces. Mary in designing fashion lines for every season, including your daughter who's here, who's branching out and even starting a 2.0. And Mrs. Abrams, in terms of curating, selecting, and designing your own pieces, making them come to life as well. So my question is, this is for more of like the entrepreneurship of your business. What goes into creating or designing a piece? What elements inspire the pieces that you produce in terms of certain fashion trends or whatnot? What sources or where do you look towards in making what you produce?
So we, the Javits Center right here in Manhattan, there's many shows all throughout the year. There's also Fashion Week. You do definitely get to see things before the public gets to see them. For example, spring ruffles are very, very big. I'm sure you'd agree. Ruffles on the sleeve, ruffle on a dress. And we've known about that 6 to 8 months ago. So we project and we design and we choose and we order so that when that season actually arrives, we're ready to roll. And that's what my focus is. Let's say this particular season, lots of ruffle, casual, but lots of ruffle.
So we like to identify our brand as unique. But what really usually inspires us could be anything. We start usually with a color palette, which we have a large design room with girls who work for me, and we pick the colors, my daughter, me. We have a few girls who sit down and we work it out. This season for fall, I'll give you a little preview because we're on to next fall already. We're doing jewel tones, the purples and the bright greens and the teals. It's actually my favorite, velvet, satins. So we start with that. We do a lot of embroidery, a lot of beading, which we have our own factories in India and Paris. That goes 6 to 8 months beforehand. So that starts coming in. We start putting everything in a color palette. Sometimes we go to Paris, we go to Italy. We're in Barcelona next month. We travel a lot to Europe. We have our own factories overseas. We're in Hong Kong. So it's really a combination of lots of different elements that go into a line.
Awesome. Sounds amazing. It's always interesting to hear a little bit of the behind the scenes action. Actually, we know that companies using social media usually let the audience know what you want us to know. What can you tell us about the behind the scenes life of a female from entrepreneur, especially when being a mom, sister, or anything is really a full-time job? So Mrs. Abrams, why don't you respond first?
So I have a bit of a to-do list that I follow. I've always been a planner. I like to have short-term plans, long-term plans. Then budget is very, very important. That are if you go into something that's undercapitalized, you're really gonna you might go in the direction of failure before success. So you really have to have a budget that you can rely on and keep that again in the guideline of the plan. And from that, it's working through, sorry, your question, give it to me again.
Yeah.
We're asking about the behind the scenes in terms of
the
balancing act.
So I really started the business, like I said, from the house and then into the store, to the point where working from the top down. Right now I'm designing, but I'll wash the windows if I have to wash the windows. The life of an entrepreneur is all encompassing. You sell, you think about things, you put systems into place to run the business. I might train a salesperson right from the bottom up to have them end up being in the store, and that I don't have to be there. The focus is the customer. The focus is staying focused and having the customer have an enjoyable experience and have them come back, have them see that we've got items that they will enjoy season after season.
So my experience is, I'll start with the most important word. Without this word, without this feeling, without this, you cannot do it. Passion. You really have to love what you're doing. I dream, eat, sleep my business, and I'm in it for 30 years. You really have to love it. It's hard. I'm going to be honest. Any of you girls who want to go into business by yourself, you have to have an amazing family that backs you, which Baruch Hashem, I was very gifted. You know, my husband and my family are my biggest fans, and I couldn't have done it without them. I just couldn't. They're there for me. They help me. I'm in 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm up with my Israel store, speaking in Yiddish to a B'nai Barak store that they're trying to understand me, and they're like trying to sleep, and they hear this Yiddish chanting. Or I'm on the phone with China at 2 o'clock in the morning and explaining a factory why it has to be done. Or it could be, you know, you need a support system. It's hard. You could do it, but you have to, when you go into it, you have to know if your family won't be behind you, don't do it. Because a Jewish girl, her first aspect is her home and her family. And I have to say that people can call me all the time in my business and I won't pick up the phone, I'm busy or whatever. But when somebody calls me regarding my family, everybody knows everything stops. Because our focus has to be what we really are. We're Jewish mothers and we're Jewish wives, and that comes first. But with that being said, if you get the support system down your back and you have the passion and you love what you're doing, then you just have to prioritize. You have to be very organized. I had a mentor, Anna Rebbitzin, Allah Shalom, who was Rebbitzin Zahava Bornstein. I don't know if any of you ever heard of her. And she always said, pay for help. Whatever you can, and this was a lesson I always have. I always think of her, and this is how I run my job. Whatever somebody else could do that you can't, you could do something else that's more, let that other person do it. So in other words, cleaning help. If you are in business, you can't clean and be in business and expect everything to be sparkling and do everything yourself, because you're just gonna fade away. Know that you're in business, you're making money, you have to budget out, get help in the house. Make sure your children are taken care of. Make sure the sandwiches are there for the morning if you need somebody to go and make breakfast. That's how I always ran my life. It's always prioritized, and I always am very systematic, and I have a lot of help.
All in all, life of an entrepreneur, especially I feel looking at us, a room full of, how many girls are in school? 300 girls staring at us. Everyone has the ability to go out and make your dream come true and be your own entrepreneur, be your own boss. But I think what we're learning, what we're seeing here is that it really is all a balancing act. And a lot of it comes from being able to roll with the punches and at the same time providing and making sure that your system, whether it's your business, your family, your support is in place. Ms. Abrams, this one's for you. Over the years of growing your business, what have you seen as the response of the modern Orthodox community to what it is that you're doing?
They're loving it, thank God. You know, everyone is loving, you can't be all things to all people. I do want to tell you that. I do have a specific customer that over time is a repeat customer, either because of price or because of, there's just probably price dictates. There's a certain price point that a customer might have in mind. She might have a larger family and a lower budget, so she has to spend less money. Then you have those that have a higher budget and a smaller family, so money's not an object. I'm really moderately priced, but moderately priced is relative. It really depends on the household. So, yeah.
And Mary, what has the response from the Orthodox community to your brand? What has it been like?
Well, believe in horror, we are opening up our 12th store coming this year. So I think that says for itself. That amazing. We have customers from clientele from all over the world. My most exciting and fun store, I must say, that I love is in Yerushalayim. People are there from literally Rebbitzins, Rosh Yeshiva's wives, to, a movie star who just became a Bala Tshuva will humble into the store. It's a very exciting thing to see our Jewish clientele. And it's very nice to see, like we have people coming from Australia. They don't have modest fashion there. We have clients from Switzerland. I mean, I get the nicest emails and really the biggest brachas that we can do this for people.
That's awesome. So now, if you don't mind, I'd actually like to reveal that last celebrity that you've worked with recently. So we've already mentioned Mayim Bialik, who wore one of your gorgeous designs to the SAG Awards this past season, and Allison Holker, who from Dancing with the Stars actually wore one of your dresses last night, I think. So last night. But would you please reveal for us the starlet that walked the red carpet and then presented an award at the Grammys this past year wearing your design?
Honestly, I won't even know how to pronounce her name, so you do it. I'm so not into that.
So if any of you guys know from the music world, the songstress Camila Cabello. So do you Okay, so we'll actually, right afterwards, we're going to try and pull up some pictures for you. But then again, everything is available on Mary Couture's Instagram. And when I tell you this dress is gorgeous, it is gorgeous. And I think what the craziest thing is that you took your brand, which is, primarily began and started, we heard your whole origin and your journey, your story. It's a modest fashion brand, and yet you completely launched and branched yourself out into this world of pop culture, which is not known for its modesty at all.
So that is what is so amazing about the world of tznius, that if you follow these stars who wore my clothing and will be wearing more of my clothing right now, it's because actually they wanted tznius. These girls are actually sick of the not modest clothing, and everybody is doing that. But they realize there's some sort of princess-like, and something about being a princess when you wear something that's could be totally covered, and not like the outside world do. They realize that's really what makes a person a queen, and that's why those stars, if you read their journey, picked my clothing.
Give her a round of applause for that. Let's go. Okay, and to both of you, for someone who wants to wear the design for any of these, this one's actually for Mary. For someone who comes into your store and says, oh, so-and-so wore this design at, this awards, or I saw the celebrity wearing that gown, and they need accommodations to make it modest for them. What is the policy, I guess, in your store and your brand in terms of helping girls modify clothing? Personally, as you all know, I'm 5'10". I can shop in the regular stores, so I've actually had the benefit and the privilege of being a recipient of Mary and other brands like hers who really are amazing at accommodating to help girls build their clothing. So what is that like in your store?
First of all, I'm so happy you're a client. Thank you. A beautiful one as well. So, we're very careful. We give with all our clothing fabric. Our clothing are cut with extra fabric strips that accommodate very tall girls, that accommodate sleeves. Some girls have shorter arms, some girls have longer arms. So every single dress that I design comes with fabric and comes with a pair of sleeves, which people can adjust, and we're more than helpful to help them with it.
It's so funny. I was just telling Ms. Moskovich before when you were doing a run through of that I have as well 2-3 pieces from your store. And when I went to the store and I was trying it on, I was with my mom, try on this dress, and like your heart kind of sinks because you try it on and it's like, oh, it's like well above my knee. Like I can't wear that. And then the craziest thing is when you flip the hem, you have an extra 6 inches or some crazy amount, which is, it's ridiculous. It's awesome because you don't get that from any other store. You don't get that from someplace that understands what we are going through in trying to look cool, fashion forward, but also have these guidelines of halacha that we want to abide by. So I was actually going to ask then for both of you, what would your response be to someone who struggles seeing that modest fashion is both beautiful and particularly chic? Mrs. Abrams, why don't you take this one?
I actually rephrase that.
Sure. What would your response be to someone who's having difficulty seeing modest fashion as chic and cool?
I honestly don't have that problem with anybody. That's why I was asking for the question the second time. People are coming in and they have their goal of being tznius as well. And I really don't find it overwhelming. Every neck can be high. Every neck can be lowered a little bit where it's still tznius. The lengths, of course, can be whatever length we need them to be. I don't find it so challenging, honestly.
So I think actually it's a good question. And I think the world today is changing. I think because there is so many people who can provide today lengths and beautiful clothing with, I think actually our generation is very lucky. My generation didn't have that. I think, the fact that we have so many fabulous women like you who are providing today, skirts at different lengths and sleeves. And just like we have kosher shops, which have delicious food, Chol Yisrael or whatever way you want it, today we have shops that are really catering to our girls. And we should all take advantage from it. There's no reason that a girl cannot be tznius today and look beautiful. It's available.
Amazing. Let's leave off with one final question before we open questions to the crowd. So if you have a question, start thinking about it. One last question. How does your business promote and contribute to not only the external aspects of modesty, but also this idea that we spoke about at the beginning of internal dignity?
So that's a beautiful question. That's all, but that was really special. So I really believe that to be successful, to have a tzlach in anything, you have to give back. And giving back is, I think the way we integrate in the Miri brand is we are working with all gemachs who need clothing. We take care of, we give away bridal gowns all the time. My daughter who's here runs a gemach for girls who need specific shavas brachas clothing for a certain type of girls who can't afford it, just can't find a Miri clothes. We're always out helping. If somebody needs something, we're here to help them. That's our way of bringing, because really, what is a Jewish woman about? A Jewish woman surrounds herself with chesed. That is the true beauty, right? So the chesed is how we integrate the Miri label. We stand for it, we're here for them, and we hope we make a lot of girls very happy.
So our focus is to always see what the customer is coming in for. We want them to be really comfortable. We want to be extremely kind to them, but we also at the same time might see that they're thinking in one direction of a particular style, and we might have a style that they're not even thinking of and are very happy to try it on and then be very pleasantly surprised by it. So we're very open to introducing ideas to them, however, not with very zero, no pressure. The other thing is that, like you're saying about giving tzedakah, every season you do have overstock. It's just inevitable. It's going to occur. So we, thank God, have the ability to give that overstock to orphanages and to Yad Balea, lots of different places. We have regular pickups whenever we have an abundance that we want to give away.
I actually have one more question, just based on what you guys were saying, and I think that this can apply specifically to what we spoke about at the beginning with Esther. If everyone can just refresh yourself back to the Megillah. I know it's coming up on Sunday, but really the basis, and I'm just really reiterating and to ask you one more time so that they can all hear. Ms. Konigsberg spoke about the idea and also Ms. Hirschfeld did about Esther and her name. Esther, if everyone remembers from the beginning, has the same root as Hester, which means hidden. And the complexity that we felt of Esther is that she's this modest woman who originally tries to just fit in with the whole rest of the world and fit in with the crowd. But when pushed to do something, she really ran for it, just like we've been talking about, and she ran with her passion, but while still being modest herself. So I guess my last question is, have you ever felt internally that complexity of being so successful and helping so many Jewish women while maybe, or how do you balance your success and hatzlacha with your own personal sense of modesty in your family, in your life?
I am so grateful to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I think we have very different foundations, and that's probably why this is a great combo, a great partnership. I single parented 4 children by myself. I didn't have the financial backing for it. I didn't have the emotional backing for it, meaning I didn't have a support system. I shouldn't say that. I didn't have a extended family support system. What I did have is I had the Frum community. The Frum community never left myself and my children a Shabbos meal alone or a Yontif meal alone. We were on Tomchei Shabbos 25 years ago. I couldn't even afford to feed 4 children. So I really say that when I use some of the buzzwords, to stay focused, to stay kind, to work hard. I am a very hard worker, but I'm also the type of person that tries to get it done correctly on the first try. I'm not too good with repeat. I don't have much patience for repeat. But if you stay focused and you have those short-term goals and long-term goals in mind, and you're a good person, and you trust HaKadosh Baruch Hu's messages that you're getting every moment of every single day, it's where I'm supposed to be at the moment, it's where you're supposed to be at the moment, and I really just stay on that path. Thank God.
So that was said so beautifully. I don't think I could do better than that, because that was really beautifully said and very admirable. But what I do want to say is, I know many times people ask me oh, can we want to meet Miri, and I say, it's not about Miri. It really isn't. It isn't about me. First of all, tzlacha is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and it's all really set to the shrine. Whatever Hashem gives you, Parnasa, we know, comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu especially. But it's really about my brand. I never build it about me. I build it about my brand. It's about making the most beautiful clothing that any Jewish princess should ever want to wear.
And with that, if we would like to open the crowd for any questions, if there is someone who has a question for us.
Okay, question for both of you guys. Have either of you ever struggled with being modest or connecting to it at all? Because if so, what personal advice do you have for someone who does?
You have no idea. That's all I can tell you. It's a very hard struggle. Tznius is such a hard struggle. And, you go to fashion shows and you see these 6'4", 6'2" lanky girls, and, and let's be honest, skin is beautiful. HaKadosh Baruch Hu made the most beautiful item in the world, skin, but it's meant for different purposes. You learn as you get older and you get wiser, as you realize, even a little with the movie stars, I just told you why they picked my brand. In the end, everything from the Torah has a reason for it, I think. And as you grow older, you realize that Hashem made us, Tznius, because in the end, that is the most beautiful. So yes, it's a struggle. Anything's a struggle. Isn't eating kosher a struggle sometimes? Anything that's good and that's worthy is a struggle, but it's definitely a struggle. You're not alone.
Are there any other questions?
How do celebrities find you guys?
Such a great question. What's your name? Miriam. Oh, I love that name. I'm Miriam too. Again, everything is from up there, but if you have 2 minutes, I'll tell you a great hashgacha story. Do you want to hear it? Because it's really hashgacha. Okay. So 2 years ago, I wanted to open up a store in Los Angeles. And my husband and me traveled to Los Angeles, and we found a store. But of course, our store's most important combination, our store, is our clothes and the wonderful, fabulous crew who takes care of my salespeople, my girls, which are my salespeople. And we worked very hard to find a wonderful from Lubavitch girl who we hired, and we spent a whole week talking to her and training her and whatever. And I got back home after a 6-hour flight from Los Angeles 2 years ago, and I had a message on my machine: "Dear Miri, I was so lovely meeting you and your husband and everything, but great news and bad news. Great news is, Baruch Hashem, I found out I'm pregnant. Bad news is, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this job." Okay, whatever. We decided it wasn't the right time. Hashem had been for 2 years later, 4 weeks ago, and this woman, 2-year-old little child, year and a half, is in playgroup. And the nursery mother never was sitting, the teacher was sitting shiva, and this woman, this girl who I'd interviewed, comes in to pay a shiva call, and she's in the back. There's a lot of people, and this very fashionable young woman comes in and sits down next to her, and they start talking, and this woman tells her she's a stylist, and she has a Jewish client, movie star, who became through Chabad of Los Angeles, and she will only wear sleeves. And where do you find beautiful clothing for a Hollywood event with sleeves? And she says, "Oh my gosh, did you ever hear of Miri?" She goes, "No." She goes, "Miri is the queen of sleeves." And that's how I got to dress my movie star. And one thing led to another.
Someone else had a question? Over here.
Can you give us any style tips?
The weight of a fabric is really important. I don't know, Miri, if you would agree, you probably would, but the weight of the fabric is really crucial. If it's too thin, it's just not enough camouflage, if you will, enough coverage. You can definitely go with the light colors and dark colors. There's no limits there. But your fabric, and then of course how the fabric is constructed. Make sure that you're comfortable if you're standing or sitting. I always tell my customers, sit on the chair in the fitting room with the skirt on, and make sure that when you sit, your knees are covered. You just want to be aware of all of that, but it's not challenging. It's really available.
I'm just going to add to that, if I may. I actually think your best style is how you wear it. If you feel beautiful in something, I have seen people carry off the most. I'm telling you, from Zara to Chanel, it doesn't matter what you wear. It's how you wear it, how you feel in it, how you smile in it. And the best sense of style in my eyes is a smile.
I think we have one more question. Is there anyone out there? 2 more.
Did you ever think you would have this lifestyle? Ever think you would have this lifestyle?
It depends which lifestyle you're talking about. I'll tell you something. When you start your business, this is what I did many years ago. I took a piece of paper and I wrote down my goals, what I wanted in life. And, with a lot of hard work and a lot of siyata d'shmaya, I could Baruch Hashem look back and say, b'lein her, we were very lucky. I was very lucky. So did I ever dream of this house? I dream. I like to dream big, and I did dream big. In so many ways, yes. And in many ways, I didn't think I would get to Hollywood stars. I do have to say that. So dream on and go for it, all of you. That's my advice.
One last question in the back, and then we'll wrap up.
Are you against navy and black?
It's actually quite a common combination. I do think that the together in a dress, and I've seen them in dresses, certainly they're great. The challenge is if you're wearing a navy dress, and what do you want to do for stockings? Because then you've got the black stocking or the navy stocking, and then you've got to deal with the shoes. So really, our fashion sense is to, I don't mean to include Miri, because I don't know if you'll agree with me, but whatever you're wearing towards your knee, whether it be black or navy, that's the color stocking you should wear. It just blends well. The problem with that, again, is then you go into the shoe. So if you have a navy skirt and a navy stocking and then you've got a black shoe, does that look good? It actually can look really terrific if you've got the right pieces. And really, I just want to mimic what Mary said. It's so true. It's how you carry yourself. If I told you how much each item costs that I'm wearing today, I think you'd be very, very surprised. They're also, none of it is brand new. None of it is brand new. I'm trying to be as sneeze as I can because we have some guys in the room, but none of this clothing is even this season. None of it. So if you buy quality, and I don't mean expensive, but I mean you buy quality, and you take care of it, you can wear it multiple seasons and multiple years. Just take care of it and be confident and comfortable in it.
I'm just going to answer to it because I think it's all about personal taste. I happen to love navy and black. I wear it all the time. It goes for me. I happen to be blonde. I love navy on blonde, so I wear a lot of navy. It doesn't bother me the slightest. If you wear a navy dress with a black stocking and a black shoe, go for it. If you wear a navy dress with sheer stocking and a black pattern shoe, I think it's fabulous. Doesn't bother me at all.
We actually have time for one more question. Are there any other questions?
What are some other ways to sneakify clothing without wearing a shell?
I think that's a fabulous question. She deserves
a round of applause.
Really, that's a fabulous question.
We've been asked to repeat the question.
What are some other ways to sneakify clothing without wearing a shell?
What are other ways to dress sneakily without wearing a shell?
It's a great question. I must say the navy and the black was also a phenomenal question. In our household, because I do have a tall daughter, much like one of the girls here today, many times we would buy two dresses. If you can get a Mitsia and you can afford that price and then have the tailor, of course, the cost of the tailor, you might get a wonderful dress out of putting two together and put the sleeves on. I'm actually sorry I didn't wear one of those dresses today that I did like that. So that's one way of working at it. And also, I personally, I have to say never wear kikiriki underneath my clothing. I think it's also age related. It's just not my thing at my age. And I always have clothing. I mean, here's a dress, it's got the sleeves. You can find them. You might have to look a little bit harder, but they are very much available.
So I happen to be wearing a shell, girls. A kikiriki, but if that's what they called, it actually is our shell, not kikiriki. But so this is the way I look at it. I happen to love, it doesn't bother me, black and black shells, white and white shells, and if it's in a sportswear. I don't detest shells for evening wear. But that's what we're about. That's why we have companies that make modesty clothing. We provide fabric, we provide sleeves, and you do not need the shells. The other idea is what you so cleverly said. Sometimes you can find in a Target or a small, like two things, and you can cut up one and make sleeves for the other. But I definitely agree, some things should not have shells.
Just before we close, I hope I'm not embarrassing her, but Ms. Koenigsberg has found this problem of finding things without shells. And this dress that she is wearing, she designed and made herself. She does this a lot. You could talk to her about it later. But the struggle and the concept, I've done that many times, putting two together. It can be done, and it's awesome.
So before we end, we just wanted to say thank you and really express how grateful we are for you taking time out of your life, your busy schedule, to join us here today. So from all of us at Central, thank you.
And to you, Central students and faculty, thank you for joining us for this episode of Spiritual Seekers. We hope that you will take away something from the panel today and be able to view modesty in a new way. Esther Hamalka is not just a woman of our past, but a piece of her should really live on in each of us. Join us next time, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you for joining. Mary and Mrs. Abrams will stay. There is 5 minutes until your next class. You can take, by the way, in the pamphlets, are the tags to follow Mary and also Brooklyn's on social media. I have to say that when scrolling through your newsfeed, sometimes you can be inundated with a lot of things. And then I scroll upon both Brooklyn's and also Mary, and I'm always so pleasantly surprised to see what they're putting out there and how they're portraying modesty as being cool and fashionable. So please check them out. And one more thing.
Actually, Mary, you had mentioned to me that there was something that you wanted to share for what opportunity you have for young women such as yourselves.
Am I on? Yeah. So I just want to tell you that we love talent and we appreciate talent, especially we try as much as we can to hire mostly from girls. So if any of you come back from seminary or need an internship or feel you're talented or need any help, please email me or email my crew, and we're always looking to hire what's out there.
Thank you, girls. Have a meaningful rest of your fast, and we will see you at Mincha after.